Welcome to Sustainability Compass, our podcast that sheds light on sustainable practices and their impact on businesses, society, and the planet. Today, we have a very special guest with us, Lokesh Bora, who is an expert in sustainability and has been working on this topic for several years. Welcome, Lokesh.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Our topic for today is the role of sustainability in promoting inclusive and equitable economic growth. Can you please elaborate on this topic, Lokesh, and tell us more about it?
Sure, sustainable development is not just about environmental conservation, but it also encompasses social and economic aspects. One of the primary goals of sustainable development is to promote inclusive and equitable economic growth. It means that the growth should be sustainable, should not be at the expense of the environment, and should benefit all members of society.
That's interesting. Can you give us some examples of how sustainability can contribute to inclusive and equitable economic growth?
Of course, let's take the example of renewable energy. The development of renewable energy can create employment opportunities for people across the economic spectrum, from highly skilled technicians to low-skilled manual laborers. The growth of the renewable energy sector can also promote local entrepreneurship and increase the GDP of the region.
That's a great example. How can sustainability ensure that economic growth benefits all members of society, including marginalized communities?
Sustainability is all about ensuring that no one is left behind. It requires a holistic approach that takes into account the needs of all members of society, especially the marginalized and vulnerable communities. For instance, sustainable agriculture practices can ensure food security and increase the income of small farmers. Similarly, sustainable urban planning can provide affordable housing and transportation options for low-income communities.
That's a very important point. Can you share some global examples of how sustainability has promoted inclusive and equitable economic growth?
Certainly, the Scandinavian countries are a great example of how sustainability has contributed to inclusive and equitable economic growth. These countries have invested in renewable energy, sustainable transportation, and green infrastructure, which has led to job creation and economic growth. Additionally, they have implemented progressive taxation policies that ensure that wealth is distributed more equally.
That's fascinating. How can businesses play a role in promoting inclusive and equitable economic growth through sustainability?
Businesses have a significant role to play in promoting inclusive and equitable economic growth. They can invest in sustainable supply chains, use sustainable materials, and ensure fair labor practices. This can lead to the creation of decent work and economic opportunities for all members of society. Additionally, businesses can invest in local communities, promote diversity and inclusion, and support education and training programs.
Those are all great ideas. What steps can policymakers take to promote inclusive and equitable economic growth through sustainability?
Policymakers can play a crucial role in promoting sustainable economic growth that benefits all members of society. They can implement policies that promote renewable energy, sustainable transportation, and green infrastructure. Additionally, they can ensure that there is equitable access to resources and services such as healthcare, education, and clean water. Finally, policymakers can promote social safety nets, progressive taxation policies, and support for small and medium-sized enterprises.
That's excellent advice. Thank you so much for joining us today, Lokesh, and sharing your expertise on the role of sustainability in promoting inclusive and equitable economic growth.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure being here.